My name is Nick Bergin. I graduated from IU in 2012 with a master's degree in organ performance. I was a student of Jeanette Fishel while I was at IU and had a really great time during my years in Bloomington and I really was very happy at IU. Um, I finished in 2012 and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee to work as the organist at First Presbyterian Church. I worked at First Pres from 2012 to 2019. I had a very positive experience in that job. It was a full-time job. It was an opportunity to do a lot of different things. I had a very good organ to play and had a lot of freedom to do kind of recital and concert type things within the context of the job, which was something I really enjoyed. Well, the church published a lot of stuff just in a given week or month, like bulletins and newsletters and things like that. The music program put out a newsletter every so often, and I found that I enjoyed editing as well. And so towards the end of my time at that job, I got a certificate in manuscript editing through the University of Chicago through they have a wing called the Graham School, which is just like for continuing education. So I did a certificate in editing um, as part of uh, kind of professional development during my first pres years. Other things that I have been able to do over the years in Nashville that I've enjoyed. I did some adjunct teaching at Lipscomb University, a class called History of Church Music, another class called Music and Worship 2. I've done a fair amount of freelance accompanying in town. I've played some organ recitals just regionally and, things like Lenten concert series recitals and things like that. In 2019, I subbed a couple of times with the Nashville Symphony, one concert just on their regular classical series, and then a Messiah performance in December of 2019. So anyway, I've enjoyed living in Nashville. I've benefited from the sort of lively community of musicians here in town. So towards the end of my years at First Pres, I kind of got to a place where I realized I didn't want my professional life and my religious life to be hitched together. I found that was increasingly constricting. Um, and so I made a decision to lean more heavily into the manuscript editing and also uh, leave the church job. And instead, I went from doing full-time church and a little bit of manuscript editing to more manuscript editing and part-time accompanying at a couple of universities in town, mostly piano, the occasional organ thing. So I did that starting in the fall of 2019. And then in March, all of that accompanying work went away because of the pandemic. And so I kind of found myself in a tight spot financially. And so I took an unskilled labor job and did that for several months. And it gave me an opportunity. Those months gave me some time to sort of think about what I wanted to do long term. And something that I had realized over the years is that a lot of the people that I connected with most in Nashville were people who had strong backgrounds as musicians, but who had gone on to do things other than music as their primary source of income or their primary, occupation, while still having significant musical stuff in their life. So, for example, a friend who is about 20 years older than me or so, but was a doctoral student in trombone at IU and taught at a university for a while and has played in professional orchestras, but now has an administrative job at Vanderbilt. Or another friend who is a pretty active opera singer and now does IT. But both of those people continue to perform and to do what they do at a high level. So I find myself moving nowadays more and more in that direction. So right now, what I do is a fair amount of editing, manuscript editing. One, my main client is a magazine called The American Organist, which is the official magazine of the American Guild of Organists. So I copy edit that every month, and I've written a couple of articles for that magazine as well, which has been fun. Um, there are also a couple of book publishers that I work for. One is called Ancient Faith Publishing, and another is an academic press called the University Press of Mississippi. So I do that uh, from home, kind of as I'm able to. And then just another thing that's kind of cropped up over the past few months is with a lot of extra free time, I discovered that I really like woodworking projects. I sort of did some woodworking stuff in the backyard over back in the spring and some in the summer. Really enjoyed doing that. And so, actually, about 2 weeks ago in January, I started a part time job, kind of an apprentice type position at a woodworking shop here over in East Nashville. Enjoy doing that quite a bit, actually. And I'm hoping and just interested to see where that goes in the months to come. Um, Thinking about things that I've learned along the way. Um, like I said, one thing that I had realized was that I like the idea of continuing to do music seriously, but not as the primary thing in my life. So moving forward, I'm kind of hoping that once things return to something like normal, it will be possible to go back to doing a little bit of subbing as an organist, sort of outside of Sunday mornings, playing for weddings and funerals or evensong or whatever. Maybe playing some organ recitals regionally. I have a couple of things coming up, one thing in Nashville and another in Alabama. There's a choir in Nashville that I've done a fair amount of accompanying for and hope to resume doing that. If it's possible to uh, do the symphony subbing thing again. I'd like to continue doing that. So it's a little unclear right now how it's all going to shake out, just because it's such an unusual time. Um, so, um, but thinking again about things I've learned, something that I have discovered personally is that what has worked really well for me in terms of finding employment is following my own interests and finding like-minded organizations or organizations that whose interests match my own, let's say. So for example, I have a strong interest in the music and culture of New Orleans, and I was able to find an academic press that publishes books on that subject. So I reached out to someone there just by expressing interest in the work that they were doing, and that was sort of an entry point for me. And I've edited about 5 books for them now. And the woodworking job that I have was I sort of used. I have a friend who does that, and asked him for a list of people he might recommend, and just reached out to someone, and a job came through that way. So it took some time, but it worked out. So that's something that I've found uh, really helpful, is sort of figuring out what I'm interested in, and then going from there. Another thing that I found is that it's been very helpful to stay in one place and build relationships over many years. I think if I wanted to continue to do music at some kind of a serious level, but try and accomplish that in a new city, it would be much harder than it would be uh, doing that in Nashville, since I know so many people here and have relationships with people. So I think there have been times when I've at various points been frustrated with one thing or another about my job situation or whatever, and felt that relocating would perhaps cure that. And I think in some cases it can help, but I've found that I've really benefited from um, having some stability and being able to lean into long-term relationships and have a sense of belonging that comes from being in one place for a long time. A couple of other thoughts. I have a very strong tendency to say yes to everything that comes my way, and it's kind of trite to say it, but no is a complete sentence, and I found that to be a really helpful thing to learn and to apply. I'd rather do a few things well and be less stressed out rather than trying to please everyone and be kind of strung out and frustrated and doing things poorly. Um, Another thing that I kind of always knew this about myself. I'm an introvert, and I know that, but I've had a lot of jobs over the years where I've had to stand up in front of a group of people and explain things to them or ask them to do things, and I really don't like doing that. And I think I'm okay with that now. And it took me a long time to realize I'm okay with that. Um, and being okay with that has allowed me to lean into things that I do enjoy, like editing and like, you know, uh, playing the organ and working in the wood shop and doing whatever else, things that are kind of solitary, but I find really rewarding and interesting. Um, so, yeah, I don't know what's coming next, but I feel that the past year, though it's been very difficult, has been great for clarification, and I'm interested to see what comes next. So that's all for me.